The Buffalo Bills fell to the Jets on Sunday, and I'm here to talk about the loss and what matters most today on Locked On Bills.
You are Locked On Bills, your daily Buffalo Bills podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's up, Bills Mafia? It's Joe Marino from the Draft Network, and I'm your host of Locked On Bills. Happy Monday to you, and thank you for making Locked On Bills your first listen every day. And as a reminder to you, we are free and available on all platforms, including YouTube. Today's episode of Locked On Bills is presented by PrizePicks. PrizePicks is daily fantasy made easy. You pick 2 to 5 players, and if they score more or less than their PrizePicks projection, you can win up to 10 times your money on your entry. First-time users can receive a 100% instant deposit match up to $100 with promo code LOCKEDON. That's prizepicks.com, promo code LOCKEDON. Well, folks, the Buffalo Bills were defeated by the Jets 20-17 and fell to 6-2 on the season. The 4-game win streak has been snapped. And I want to start this podcast today by talking a little bit about perspective, and not necessarily a message about how everything is still in front of the Bills that they want to achieve this season and that they leave the week as the number 1 seed in the AFC and atop the AFC East Division. But I want to talk about perspective and how no season is ever a straight line. There's always ebbs and flows. We have an entire history of football to reconcile that tells us that. And as it would turn out, the 2022 Buffalo Bills aren't the team that is going to crack the code of football, and historical norms still apply to them. In the past years on this podcast together, the journey looks different every year, although the same mission for the team remains, right? But at some point, we had to talk about the progression of the season and the importance of playing your best football at the right time. In 2019, it was all about growth as a team and meeting moments and finding signature wins, and there was plenty of ups and downs along the way. In 2020, the Bills were 13-3, but if you recall, the defense had some real challenges, especially early in the season, and I even did a podcast that year on the potential fatal flaws of the team, and I remember talking to you about how I felt like the Bills weren't a complete football team. Last year, the Bills were 7-6 at one point before they won out late in the season. 7-6. There were plenty of ups and downs. The point being that no season is ever a straight line. This year has a different feel because the expectations were so high, and then the team came out and played really well. They were hot out of the gate. But just like in every season, there are ebbs and flows. There are problems that arise for every team every year. So before we get into this thing, I wanted to start with that reminder that no season is ever a straight line for any team. And the last 6 quarters of Bills football have been troubling. They have some things to work out, and I'm excited to see how they respond. So with that out of the way, let's talk about this football game. And we're not going to do the typical things I liked, things I didn't like. I don't think that's going to be the best way for me to really deliver my thoughts on this game. I want to have a segment here on offense, and then I want to have a segment on defense. Let's talk about the offense first. And before I really get into all of the specifics that I want to mention, I want to talk about the final drive of the game, where the Bills were down 20-17 and had a reasonable amount of time to go down and either tie the game with a field goal or win it, right, with a touchdown. Two things that I want to point out. First of all, that was an egregious holding call on Deion Dawkins. It negated the 26-yard pass to Diggs on first down. It was an awful call. It was not holding by any stretch of the imagination. And then on the fourth down and 21 yards to go, Gabe's got to catch the football. Gabe has to make a play on that ball. And it went right through his hands. And so that was a couple of disappointing moments, right? Obviously the sack as well. But on that last drive, that's what I wanted to point out. Howard Simon from WGR 550, he put out a tweet that I think really kind of encapsulates the Bills' offensive performance. The Bills took a 14-3 lead with 6.5 to go in the second quarter. The offense scored 3 more points the rest of the game. They had 5 drives and totaled just 81 net yards. They went missed field goal, interception, field goal, punt, turnover on downs. That's not good. 14-3. 5 more drives, 81 yards, missed field goal, interception, field goal, punt, turnover on downs. Let's talk about Josh Allen. Bad day at the office for 17. 18-34, 205 yards, no touchdown passes, 2 interceptions, a passer rating of 46.8. Both of the interceptions were awful. And he's thrown 4 awful interceptions over the last 6 quarters. I talked a lot this week, and really it was the main point I wanted to drive home on Friday about the Bills doing a better job of taking care of the football. They're turning it over. I'm sure the clip might even be higher now. But entering that game, they were 4th worst in the NFL in percentage of drives ending in a turnover. Over 16%. That's terrible. And then they have 2 interceptions against the Jets and 2 strip sacks. Now, fortunately, they recovered the football both times, but there was a legitimate opportunity for the Bills to commit 4 turnovers. And what bothers me is that a lot of them, well, all of them against the Jets in terms of the turnover, the interceptions, and both against the Packers, were just bad decisions and bad throws by Josh Allen. He has to be better. He has to be better. He knows that. He said it after the game. He said it's hard to win when your quarterback plays like beep. He ain't wrong. I appreciate him taking ownership in it, but he has to play better. He has to take care of the football. I mean, he had 8 rushes for 86 yards and 2 touchdowns. That's cool. Love that. Only reason the Bills scored the 2 touchdowns that they did was Josh Allen's legs. Josh Allen, the passer, the last 2 games has left a lot to be desired. And I think at the core of it, in my opinion, is that someone else besides Stephon Diggs has to become a more consistently reliable weapon for this offense. Somebody not named Steph Diggs, right? I don't think Diggs had a catch in the second half. That's not okay. And you look through the inventory of options and you start with Gabriel Davis. And the big question with Gabriel Davis coming into this year was, what does he look like as the number 2 receiver? I talked about this all offseason long. It's a different ball game when you're no longer the 3rd, 4th option in the passing game. Gabriel Davis has made a lot of plays off of having size and ball skills down the field and taking advantage of the type of player that Josh Allen is. Well, Josh Allen needs Gabriel Davis to do more. And I don't mean just catch more passes. He has to be able to do more than just win with size and ball skills down the field and have opportunities where he's schemed up to make plays. You have to be able to run more routes, right? There has to be more branches on your route tree. There has to be more catch and run. There has to be a more complete skill set for that number 2 receiver. And so far, Gabriel Davis continues to not prove that's what he is. The third down drop early in the game that forced the Bills to punt. And then, of course, not making the play on the 4th and 21. He's had some big games, and I recognize that. But he's also had some extremely quiet ones. And so the question that I have, is Gabriel Davis an X factor for the offense? Or is he someone who legitimately deserves volume? Is this a guy that you're going to target 110 times a year as your number 2 receiver in this offense? So far, he hasn't proven to be that. And I understand that he had the ankle injury early on, but he's been healthy. And the production has been really hit or miss. And I think at the root of Josh Allen not playing the way we have enjoyed him to play over the last couple of weeks has really been due in large to not having enough from Gabriel Davis and the weapons in the passing game that aren't named Stephon Diggs. I want to mention Dawson Knox here. 3 catches for 25 yards in this ball game on 4 targets. We're talking about a $14 million per year tight end. When you sign Dawson Knox to that deal, you committed to his involvement in the offense. You don't typically pay 3 or 4 different playmakers for your offense. You kind of pick 2, right? And the Bills have picked Stephon Diggs and Dawson Knox to be the highest paid players in this offense that aren't named Josh Allen, that you're going to really funnel things through. Dawson Knox hasn't been that player this year. And I don't know how much of it's his fault. The volume and opportunity hasn't been there with consistency, but we're talking about a $14 million per year tight end. Need more there. And I think it comes from a commitment to getting him the football. Tight ends have never been a prominent piece of the offense under Josh Allen as a quarterback. They've always been kind of an X factor. And that's fine because the offense has been really good. But when you make that type of a financial commitment, I think it's fair to want more. How about the slot situation? Isaiah McKenzie, right? He is who he is. He's a gadget player. Khalil Shakir wasn't even targeted in this ball game. So whether it's the tight end, the slot, wide receiver 2, wide receiver 4, whatever you want to call it, there's just not enough happening outside of Stephon Diggs for Josh to be consistent over the last couple of weeks. How about the run game? I know Josh Allen had a good day statistically, but running the football. Devin Singletary, 8 for 24. James Cook, 4 for 15. No consistency. Those guys didn't run bad. I thought they had some good runs. But it's not anything that this team can rely on. There's no consistency with this rushing offense whatsoever. It has moments. But for the most part, it disappears in every game, it seems like. Even against the Packers and the Chiefs, right? The Bills' last 2 games. Really good moments in the first half, and then it just fades. It just fades later on. And again, we never want this to be a high-volume rushing team, but in a game like this, a 20-17 ball game, you like to be able to lean on it a little bit more. And I don't think the Bills have gotten to the point where for any consistent stretches of games, they can rely on it fully. I thought the pass protection in this game was not ideal. Josh Allen was sacked 5 times. He was hit 8 other times. The running backs had 12 rushes for 39 yards. This wasn't a great game for the offensive line. So there's not a whole lot to love about the Bills' offense in this ballgame, and they scored 17 points. Turned the ball over twice, got sacked 5 times. So I'm not going to sit here and paint a rosy picture for you about how there's things that I liked about this offense, because there's really not. I like Josh Allen running the ball, and I like targeting Stephon Diggs. Those were good things. James Cook had some good moments, right? But collectively, this effort offensively was not good enough, And that's very disappointing to me because this defense, and we'll talk about them in the next segment, and I obviously didn't love a lot about the defense. They held the Jets to 20 points and they were shorthanded, right? They were shorthanded on defense. With Josh Allen as your quarterback, you should win a lot of ball games. You should win most. You should win almost every ball game that your defense holds the opponent to 20 points. And this offense couldn't find more than 17 and fell all over themselves when they had a chance to go win the game. And over their last 5 drives, to score 3 points and net 81 yards and go missed field goal, interception, field goal, punt, turnover on downs in a tight ball game. Not good enough. Not a good day at the office for the Bills offense in general. Well, I hope you've been getting over on the action at PrizePicks. PrizePicks is my favorite daily fantasy resource. How does it work? You pick 2 to 5 players, and if they score more or less than their PrizePicks projection, you can win up to 10 times your money on any entry. There's no competing against other people. It's just you versus the projections available. And PrizePicks has projections on any sport that you watch. So it's not just the NFL. They have NBA, NHL, PGA, college sports, disc golf, boxing, MMA, you name it. You can find it over at PrizePicks, and entries can be made in just 60 seconds or less. It is that easy. So download the PrizePicks app or go to prizepicks.com to sign up and play daily fantasy sports. First-time users can receive a 100% instant deposit match up to $100 with promo code Locked On. So if you deposit $100, PrizePicks will give you $100. If you deposit $50, PrizePicks will give you $50. Don't forget to use our promo code Locked On at sign up for an instant deposit match worth up to $100. Let's talk about this defense a little bit here. And like I said, I didn't love the effort from this unit on Sunday against the Jets, but I will acknowledge a couple things here. They were shorthanded, and they held New York Jets to 20 points and 310 yards. I mean, the offense has to be better. And I thought 2 of the fill-in players on Sunday really struggled. And we'll start with Jaquan Johnson. What's been the knock on Jaquan Johnson? He's small and slow. And damn it, you knew it watching that ball game. Was late and got out-physicaled time and time again in this ball game. You understand very clearly why Damar Hamlin's been the player to start next to Jordan Poyer with Micah Hyde not available. Jaquan Johnson has a great mindset. He can have moments. He can play special teams, but he's too small and too slow to be a relied upon player in the NFL. And the Jets exposed him in this ballgame. The other guy that struggled mightily was Terrell Bernard. And I would love to watch the tape before I really go in on him, but man, did he look like he was lost out there. And you could just tell by alignment, every play, it was like he was talking to Tremaine, trying to figure out where to line up. He was out of position multiple times. He was slow to process. He couldn't get through traffic. His impact was very poor in this ball game. You could tell Matt Milano wasn't out there. And this is the guy you drafted in the 3rd round for these types of moments, right? To be able to mitigate the loss to an extent with Matt Milano. And I know it's his first start, and the book's not written on Terrell Bernard, but he looked a lot like the player I didn't love at Baylor, I'm not going to lie. Bernard's best moments have always been when he's a gap shooter. And when you got to get him thinking and processing, it ain't always there. And I felt that way watching him in preseason, and I surely felt that way watching this game against the Jets. And I hate that I'm sitting here reflecting on this loss and going in on a couple of backups, but they struggled. They struggled. They cost the team. Let's talk about the run defense a little bit. Looked really bad in the second half in particular. Well, the Bills remain committed to being a 4-2-5 defense. You know, they're a nickel defense. They didn't tackle with consistency in this game once again. You didn't have Matt Milano. You didn't have Jordan Poyer. And you didn't have Gregory Rousseau in the second half, who's your best run-stopping defensive end. I thought the Jets were winning up front with their offensive line, and the second level wasn't able to make the front right today. And that's something that Matt Milano does extremely well. But more than anything, you know what the best run defense is? A good offense. That didn't happen today. The best run defense is a good offense, and the Bills played a tightly contested game with the Jets. When they were up 14-3, the Jets didn't have to panic or do anything different because the Bills' offense couldn't continue playing with any level of consistency. A couple other thoughts here on the defense. I thought Tremaine Edmonds picked off that football. I have no idea what happened there. The Jets quick snapped, but it looked very clearly to me that Tremaine Edmonds had sole possession of the football, clenched against his shoulder pads, and then that other dude came in, and while they were on the ground, he kind of wrestled it away. I thought Tremaine controlled that interception. The fake punt, that's an embarrassing moment for this defense because the regular defense was out there. They were out there for that possibility that they would run a fake punt, and they couldn't bow up and get a stop. You put your regular defense on the field for that moment. And these special teams players for the Jets against the Bills, regular defense, were able to get a fake punt conversion on you when you knew it was going to happen. A couple of good things for the defense, I guess. I'm going to mix in some bad stuff as well. But obviously the strip sack from Von Miller was a great play. And Von had a big tackle for loss to limit the Jets to a field goal on that late drive. But there's still some undisciplined pass rush that I'm seeing from Von Miller. The 3rd and 3 conversion where Zach Wilson was able to convert, and then the next play was a touchdown to put the Jets up 17-14. Von was undisciplined with his rush. He got way up the field, and Zach Wilson was able to just very easily gain the first down, and the defenders were clamped up down the field. There was nowhere for Zach Wilson to go with that football. But because Von Miller decided to get all loopy and wide and up the field and pass a quarterback, Zach Wilson had a very easy opportunity to go pick up that scramble. And then there were other times in this ballgame where you knew the Jets knew that Von had a propensity to get out of his rush lanes, and they took advantage of it with free access plays in the passing game and some Zach Wilson scrambles. Credit to Zach Wilson, by the way. I went in on him this week, big time. And he played winning football. It wasn't this world-beating statistical performance, but Zach Wilson embraced the style of play that was necessary to beat the Bills on Sunday, and I didn't think he can do it. Credit to him. I knew their defense was good. We talked about that all week. But I didn't think Zach Wilson would be able to settle in and play winning football, and they did that. The Jets embraced a winning script. They controlled the clock, especially in the second half. They took care of the football. They played disciplined defense. They had some aggressive moments with the fake punt, and they won a ball game. I will say that I thought Damar Hamlin played well in this game. Some assertive downhill fills, obviously the sack. He had another tackle for loss. Damar Hamlin played well in this ball game. BetOnline. It is your number one source for betting football and the start of the new basketball season. You can find all the latest player developments, team matchups, news, podcasts, and in-depth analysis on every game. And as always, BetOnline remains your continued source for all your sports wagering information with live betting and up-to-the-minute scores for every sport out there. It's the fastest and easiest way to check in on all your favorite games and events, including MLB, MMA, boxing, and golf. So head to the website today or use your mobile device to learn more about the trends and the action. It's BetOnline, and it's where the game starts. Let's close things out here by reflecting on my predictions and talking about the AFC East a little bit, what's next for the Bills and what's next for this podcast. Starting with my predictions, my goodness, I went 0 for 5. This was an awful performance. My first prediction was that the Bills would put up the most points against the Jets defense of any team so far this year. They needed 31 to do that. They got 17. Didn't happen. My second prediction was that the Bills would put up the most yards against the Jets of any team this year. They would need 406 to get that done. They fell way short, only 317 yards for this Bills offense. Number 3, I said Zach Wilson's sacks and interceptions will equal 6 or more. That didn't happen. He only got halfway there with 3. Season high for yards from Dawson Knox was my 4th prediction. He would need 41 to accomplish that. He got 25, and I predicted the Bills would win, and that didn't happen. So I went 0 for 5 on my predictions this week. As far as the AFC East goes, the Bills are still in first place. They're 6-2 after their 20-17 loss to the Jets. But now the Bills are 0-2 in the division. Have a head-to-head loss to the Jets. And they also have a head-to-head loss to the Dolphins. The Dolphins improved to 6-3 after they beat the Bears 35-32. Oh, by the way, the Patriots are 5-4 with their 26-3 win over the Colts. So this isn't going to be a cakewalk here in the AFC East. And the Bills are fortunate right now to be in sole possession of first place, but they're sitting there 0-2 with head-to-head losses so far against the Jets and the Dolphins. They're right there behind them. The Bills still control their own destiny. That's great. But it's pretty clear that, as we anticipated with the resources that these teams have had, they're not cakewalks. In fact, everyone in the division has a winning record. And the Jets and Dolphins are really stacking some quality wins here and playing good football. So good for them. The Jets are good on defense for sure. Dolphins are an explosive offense. They're every week Tua is throwing for 300 yards, and Tyreek Hill already has 1,000 yards through 9 games. He did it in 8.5 games. So that offense people are still figuring out how to deal with that. The Patriots are playing good defense at least. And so the Bills have to obviously continue or start playing to their capability, because this division is not just a bunch of pushovers. These teams are reasonable football teams, and I think this division could put 3 teams in the playoffs this year. All the hype over the AFC West. Well, look at this. This appears to potentially be the best division in football. The Bills are in an 0-2 hole. Now, fortunately, they still get to play the Patriots twice, the Jets and Dolphins once, and both of those games will be in Buffalo. Speaking of Buffalo, the Bills are back at home next week against the Vikings. The Vikings are 7-1. I look forward to breaking them down for you this week on the podcast. But one note that I want to make here is that this was the Bills' 8th game of the season, the 5th time they were on the road. Bills are 3-2 on the road, and they're 3-0 at home so far this year. The Bills have won their last 6 games at home. That ties the longest win streak the team has had at home since 1998. And so if there ever was a reason for the Bills to want to have the 1 seed and home field advantage through the playoffs, it's this. The Bills are a better team at home. And I've mentioned this a few times. Sean McDermott has coached 6 playoff games as head coach of the Bills. 6, right? 3-0 at home, 0-3 on the road. So the good news is the Bills have plenty of home games the rest of the way. It tips the next 2 are at home. So the Bills have to kind of stack some wins here, maybe get some cushion back. That's the thing, is they've lost their cushion here with this first place position that they currently still hold in the AFC East and in the AFC. But it's all still right there in front of them. The Bills have played 6 bad quarters in a row. We're still midway through the season. We've played 8 of 17, so not even half the games yet. Remember, this team was 7-6 last year. Lost to the Steelers, lost to the Jaguars, lost to the Colts. This can be okay. But they need to get healthy on defense. And they need to develop this offense beyond Josh Allen running the football and Josh Allen throwing the football to Stephon Diggs. That's the task at hand. Now go do it, right? Go do it. All right, folks. Tomorrow on this podcast is going to be herd mentality. That'll be fun. I'm sure you guys have some great stuff lined up for me, and I can't wait to dig into that for you. So come on back for that. I would always, or as always, I kindly ask that you share, subscribe, rate, and review. No, it's not a Victory Monday. That's just the way it goes sometimes. But I do look forward to catching up with you again tomorrow.